If you were around in the 80s, you probably remember a movie called Maximum Overdrive. This is a movie that is kind of silly in concept, but essentially machines turned on their owners and ended up killing them. Well, today I'm going to tell you about a Harley-Davidson trike that did this exact same thing to its own owner. Now, what I find interesting is the response from the guy that was affected. He not only lost his girlfriend, not only lost his love of motorcycles, but he also lost something for Harley-Davidson in the process. And it all came down to one simple little fix that was supposedly fixed already. I'm going to tell you the story. Of course, I want to hear your opinion. Have you ever been affected by one of these recalls in a serious way? If you have any stories like that you want to share, of course, feel free to actually do that. If you agree or disagree with my opinion, totally fine. I'm going to give you that towards the end as far as the way this whole situation kind of played out. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So Harold Morris and his girlfriend, Pam Sinclair, they had been riding for a while, and essentially, Pam didn't feel so comfortable with them being on the motorcycle and the balance issues, and when you get older, that stuff happens, right? So instead of just selling their motorcycle and never riding again, they decided to go with a trike. Now, of course, trikes offer a very unique experience because you still get the feel of a motorcycle, especially with Harley trikes. They give you essentially that same feeling, except it's just a little bit easier to ride in a lot of different ways, right? You come to a stop, your feet get to stay up, you don't have to worry about balancing a heavyweight cruiser, at slow speeds or anything like that. So they go down to Key West and they're coming back up towards Sarasota, and all of a sudden the motorcycle veers violently off to the left and they end up crashing. Now, they take the bike back to Harley. Harley then fixes the issue. Now, Harley said, hey, we're not paying for your medical bills because Harold had requested that, because he knew that this wasn't a fault of his own. It was actually the bike. But they refused. He has the bike fixed. Now, at the same time, a recall comes out. This recall is about the traction control system specifically. Now, 2019, 2020, this is when Harley introduced RDRS. But essentially you had safety features that were finally implemented into Harley-Davidsons. Cornering, ABS, reflex, linked brakes, right? Those have been with the bikes for a while, but you had all of these different safety features that were actually incorporated, including traction control. Well, essentially a false signal could be sent to the rear wheel speed sensor, causing that to engage the brakes, which then could cause the vehicle to steer off the road either to the left or the right. So what I find interesting is Harold doesn't mention that this recall specifically is fixed at the time when his bike is fixed. He just says it was fixed. So did the recall notice come out in time for his bike to receive the software update? Or did it not? I'm not quite sure, but it was around that same time, so he figured, hey, the trike is fixed and I'm good to go. Well, 2 years later, he's up in New York on the New York-Pennsylvania line, and the same thing happens. The problem is his girlfriend does not walk away this time.
All of a sudden, the bike was going off to the left.
Harold's trike swerved off a Pennsylvania road, and Pamela took a fatal tumble.
She was killed in the accident.
Now, he of course gets out of the hospital and he sues Harley-Davidson. Now, his claims are that Harley actually got to the point of almost suing him. They said that he had some kind of a death wish, and of course that didn't go anywhere. But this whole time, Harold says something interesting about the way Harley responds to him. He actually admitted that, hey, I might have settled this out of court if they weren't so arrogant about the situation. If they weren't talking about suing me and telling me that it was my issue, maybe we could have settled. Now, I don't know all the details, right? So I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly how and what Harley was saying to him at this time. But his perception is that, they were not really sympathetic. They wanted to place all of the blame on him, not the motorcycle, not the fact that the recall either wasn't done or it wasn't the proper fix for this all the way around. Now, a judge ended up looking back at it because, of course, they're going to appeal, right? and he made it fall a little bit more in line with past cases, and so they dropped it to $80 million, right? Well, that's still, I mean, way more money than any of us will probably ever see in our lifetime for sure. And that's a statement, or that's amount of money that makes a hell of a statement to a company. You know, that's a figure that's up there, right? It was almost $300 million initially, right? And that's like, oh my God, $250 million. You know, it's a crazy amount of money. And all from a system that is designed to actually be safer for riders, right? The traction control system, rear wheel speed sensor, right? The linked brakes, or in this case, the rear brake, right? All of these things are designed to keep us safe on a motorcycle, and yet this bike actually ended up turning on its owners in a way. And there's enough for us to worry about on the road, right? We got to worry about ourselves and our own skill, no matter if you're on a trike or a motorcycle, right? You carry some of the same risks for sure. You got to worry about other riders, right? And their distractions, and are they going to cross the center line, and whatever else we have to worry about, right? But having to worry about your own motorcycle turning against you is not something I ever want to go into, right? And it didn't sound like something that's like gradual. It almost seemed like this kind of very quick and violent thing where the brakes engage, boom, you're off the road before you even know what happened. I know that there will be riders out there that say, you know, once you put all that stuff on motorcycles, you're just asking for more things to go wrong and potential hazards to you. I don't agree with that. I think that a lot of these safety features on motorcycles are fantastic, and no, they do not take the place of skill. But if you mess up, if you make some kind of mistake, they can definitely help out when rider error, unfortunately, gets involved. And there's so many hazards out there that sometimes it is nice that your motorcycle is kind of looking out for you at the same time. But this is one where the motorcycle, or the trike in this case, actually turned on its owner. Pretty fascinating story. And again, the way Harley responded, according to this guy, is a little bit disappointing. I think one thing that's interesting is that you have the techs that fix the motorcycle that are involved. But did they even know about the recall yet? Right? We don't really know that. Did they just fix the bike up and they thought, man, he made a mistake, right? We're just going to fix the bike, and there's no codes to tell us otherwise. There is no software update that we know about, so they let the bike go. Maybe the guy got the letter after he got the bike back already and assumed that it was done. Not sure about that either, but when your bike turns on you, that's a pretty scary thing. So there you go, man. I'd love to hear your opinion about this story as well. Is something like this unfortunately ever happened to you? Let me know down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.